Mindshift, a PLCS Empowerment Collective podcast. I am Christopher, one of your hosts. Happy to be here today.
And I'm Deb. I'm your other host. I'm also happy to be here.
And Deb, I got to start this one off with a story. So last week, Leo was going to his cousin's basketball game with Papa and Grandma, okay? And the only thing Leo likes about going to sporting events is popcorn. Yeah. That's it. That's why he goes.
Yeah.
So I say, okay, here, he has a wallet now, which he's 4. So he has a wallet. He's very excited about that. And I say, okay, here's some money that I have so you can buy some popcorn at the game. And we put it in his wallet. And I say to him, okay, how much money do you have? And he says, I have $3. And I said, well, this one has a 5 on it. And then these two have 1s on them. So this one counts as 5. So you have 5. And he goes, 6, 7. And I go, perfect. So how much money do you have? And he said, $3. So it got me thinking about money. And when we start talking about money with kids and kind of just what that looks like.
You know what I was wondering, Christopher, about, I know we're going to talk about financial wellness and families, but I'm of the generation that when I was young, parents did not talk about money. So they did not talk about how much money they made. It was all a big secret. And at the same time in my family, there was a lot of tension around money because my parents seemed like they would have arguments about it. So as a result, I grew up with a lot of anxiety about money to the point where our guests will find this out. I have so much anxiety about it that I really didn't even want to do this podcast because I hear about money and finances and I panic a little bit.
So you mentioned a couple times we have an expert joining us today. I'm excited to hear from her. So we'll go ahead and have you introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Kendra Cain, and I am with Cobalt Credit Union. I'm their Senior Community Engagement Coordinator. So I'm so glad to be here.
Kendra, what does that mean? Community Engagement Coordinator.
So what I do is I engage our employees with the community. We have branches from Lincoln to Denison, Iowa, and having them be connected to the communities that we're a part of.
That's great.
Yeah, and we're grateful that you guys were available and willing to help us out with our podcast, especially since this is a topic that people want to hear about, but maybe don't know how to approach, especially with their kids. So how do kids start forming beliefs about money?
Kids are great observers, and so they are looking and watching what the parents are doing, what other relatives are doing. So that is something that they see, maybe a wallet, and they see, oh, I know that when my parent brings out the wallet, it's time to pay, or, you know, it may be time that I get a treat if I'm getting an allowance. And so I think it's definitely being a visual learner in the young ages. And then as they grow up, learning it in school and really taking that on throughout their life.
So I'm wondering about, Kendra, just knowing that we're in the age of Amazon, dropping packages off every day. That are we giving messages to our kids about our spending habits that are maybe some healthy ones and unhealthy ones as well?
Definitely. I would say when we spend excessively, we're kind of sending that message of treat yourself. And if I want it, I'm going to get it. I think also, you know, I'm more of I like to call window shopper. And so I, you know, will go to the store a couple times and look at the things that I want to buy, whether it's that pair of shoes or that purse, and hoping that in the future, I'm able to show my kids that being patient and waiting for stuff also can send a message of, I want this item, but if I wait and save money for it, then I can also get it.
Yeah, I'm hearing about people saying that they are trying to control their spending by maybe they fill their cart, but then they say, I am not going to take any action on this for a certain period of time. And then they go back. And a lot of times people are saying, I didn't really want the things that were in my cart. So it sounded a lot like that.
Yeah, that's a rule I've heard recently too, of if you find something that you like and you go back 2 weeks later, or you go back to your cart 2 weeks later, if you still want that item 2 weeks later, buy it, you know, purchase it. But if 2 weeks later you're like, what did I add to my cart? Or, you know, what did I come back to this store for? Then maybe it really wasn't for you.
That instant delivery, though, I think is part of the problem, right? Because when I think about my Amazon cart, I love same-day delivery. I love next-day delivery. I love 2-day delivery. If you start going beyond 2 days, I start getting mad. And so I did have to check myself a little bit and check my spending a little bit and say, okay, I'll add stuff to my cart. And then on the weekend, I review my cart and see what's in it. Do I really need it? No. And so having that weekly review has helped me out a little bit. And, you talked about shopping in the stores and doing a little bit of window shopping because we've got that too. And I have a Target problem. No, problem is wrong. I have a Target affinity. Okay. So Leo has been going to Target since he was very little. And he just recently realized that when we go to Target, we're spending money. He didn't know that before.
Wow.
He thought like, oh, we just go to Target and we pick out the things that we want and then we talk to the person and then we leave. And I was like, oh, no, this costs money. And he didn't grasp that. He was like, so we have to have money for that. So what are some age appropriate ways? Now, my son's 4, but we have listeners with children of all ages. What are some age appropriate ways to start or to include children in conversations about money?
Yeah, I think you're doing a great job, bringing him to Target with you and having that conversation with him. And I think adding to that, having him, swipe the card, maybe at the register, or if you're at self-checkout, he puts the cash into the self-checkout. It could also be before you go to the store, if you have an older child, having them create a list of things that you need. And then as you get to those items in the store, having a budget when you create that list. But when you get to those items in the store, saying, okay, we only want to spend this much and this item is a little more than I expected it to be. Do we need it, or was this like a want on our list? And so having those conversations as you're in the store. And so it could be those simple moments of, having them pay when it's time to pay, or they have a certain budget they get for snacks. And so when they're picking out their snacks, did we meet our budget? And if we're over, okay, which snack are we going to take out this week? So things that they themselves are getting excited about going shopping. And so if I have an amount that I know I can spend this trip to the store, then that makes me excited and I'm learning something.
You know what I'm wondering about, Kendra, as you're talking about this, and you mentioned having them swipe the card. A lot of times, and I'll speak for myself, I rarely carry cash.
Yeah, me too.
Because I can pay for things with the card or with the phone. So it makes me wonder how that affects kids' understanding of money. Like, do they realize that's money, or are they thinking, oh, you just get, like Leo, you just get to take things?
Yeah, I would say, similar to Leo, what is money real until we start paying our own bills. But I think it does affect children's understanding. If you can make things a learning experience for them, doing that. And so if you're depositing into your savings, it may be something that you're automatically doing, but just show them, look for my phone. I was able to pay myself today, or look at what our trip just cost us, or, going to Target. So I think just creating those moments of understanding and learning can help really allow our children to understand that money's real and that, you do have to buy things when you go places.
So one of the ways that I learned about money was playing Monopoly, right? When I was a kid.
Yeah.
Because you have to buy things and then you have to give up money when you do stuff, whatever, right? I just saw recently that Monopoly announced they are making a digital pay version of the board game.
Okay.
Where the board game that they were releasing will have a companion app that serves as the digital pay part to be more reflective of real world spending. And so I thought that was really innovative of the people that develop Monopoly to say, you know what? Cash is not how we're spending money these days. So let's make a version of the game to help teach people that is more reflective of real life. So I thought that was really cool.
We kind of joked about that at just with friends the other day, how when you go to arenas, like to go to concerts, like, are we gonna have to give our kids our credit card so that they can like buy stuff? Because I know some of the local arenas, they only take card. And so at what age, should we have that conversation of, here's your debit card, and when you go to these places, I'll put money on it.
So do you have at Cobalt, Kendra, I'm wondering, do you have a way that parents can get cards like that for their kids? I'm wondering how you help families with that.
Yeah. So we are hoping soon to launch a student checking account. And actually, we were trying to decide what that age range would be. So is it that we stick to 13 and with parent signature, or do we, go to a lower age? And so that's something that we have discussed. We do have checking accounts that can be co-signed by parents at 13 and up. I think as we see just even our technology around accessing our accounts is changing, how are we showing that to the next generation?
I was thinking about one of the questions that we were wondering about is how you talk with kids about wealth and the differences in wealth. And what came to mind for me, I'm thinking of my grandkids. So I have a senior in high school and he's got a freshman in high school brother. The older one works and saves every cent. I mean, he saves. So he has a lot of money. The younger one, it burns a hole in his pocket. So he has to spend it. So how do parents manage that, where they have maybe the same beliefs that they're passing on to their kids, but one kid is a spender and the other one saves it. And so then there can be some jealousy because this one has all the money. What do you recommend?
I always say lead with, gratitude and empathy. And so leading with, we're grateful for what we do have and what we did receive. What can you do to help as an older sibling to, instill some of that wisdom to them? Maybe have the conversation between the siblings versus, parents. Sometimes as parents can be the bad guy. And so siblings are that, listening ear.
But I really like what you said about trying to understand each other rather than judge each other or lord it over to the other one, but to try to really just understand.
Well, and it's interesting that the concept of jealousy, it comes up early. A couple weeks ago, again, Leo comes home and he tells me Kendra has a new lunchbox. And I was like, great. I'm so glad that she has that lunchbox. And he was like, well, I need a new lunchbox. And I said, no, if you want to spend your money on a new lunchbox, we can talk about that, but you don't need a new lunchbox.
Well, Christopher, when you said that he can spend his own money, does he get an allowance?
Allowance is something that I just don't know. My sister has older kids, and so I've talked to her about allowance a lot because I think there are pros and cons to it. And I don't know, Kendra, from your perspective, what are your thoughts on allowance?
So I think allowance can help create those spending habits early. So I would say maybe it is something that's monthly and, a pretty small amount that, you try to see if they can stretch throughout the month.
And that's kind of what my sister said, is that she uses it to teach her kids about saving because they know, and being a little bit older, they know, okay, we're going to get this much money a week. And so if I want that, then I'm going to have to wait this many weeks. And she also gives them opportunities to make extra money by doing extra chores and things like that. We have one more question that we wanted to ask you about. And what mindset shift around money do you think would be most beneficial for our families listening today?
To be open to instilling little pieces of learning throughout the day or with your children. We often are rushing and going places so quickly. And so taking that 5 minutes or less to just be like, this is a piece of learning for savings, or, here, go ahead and learn how to use my card, or just different little things that relate to savings and budgeting. My mindset shift would be not taking for granted a learning opportunity.
Well, and I really love that. And you had mentioned, and I tucked this one away for later, you had mentioned earlier in the episode, having your child help you with the grocery list and giving them like a snack budget. And I'm like, ooh, that's a good one because let me tell you, Leo loves his snacks. So thank you, Kendra, so much for being with us today. We really appreciate your time and expertise on the topic. And thank you, listener, for listening to Mindshift. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow us wherever it is that you get your podcast. And you can visit our website at plcschools.org/Mindshift for more content. And be sure to join us next week for another exciting topic.